not a fairy tale. Not everyone deserves a happy ending. Not that I don't admire what you're trying to do. To change the world. Nothing but desire in your own two hands. Secure in the knowledge that you're doing the right thing. The only thing. That's something that I do understand. But we both can't have what we want. So, it's not me you need to worry about. You're running around in a mask. That's what makes you dangerous. It's not the mask. It's not the skills. It's your ideology. The lone man thinks he can make a difference. I respect your conviction, even if it runs counter with my own.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and racist pieces in between. This is Soul Papo with another week of living, doing what one does. You know, and so much of life, in all honesty, it feels like it's going towards, it's being lost into, it's being taken away by having to go to work, you know, and obviously not every one job is the same. You know, some people, they sit behind a desk all day. Some are actively on their feet, you know what I'm saying? Maybe being a hero. Others maybe taking in the ass. I mean, whichever floats your boat or found you your lost remote, I mean, we do what we have to, right? And whatever our 9 to 5 is, and no matter the time frame in which it actually takes place, it's all those are just details. Let's not get lost in the details. Other than when you're doing something that you don't love, it kind of becomes one of those things where like, well, I don't want to do that again, and you start dreading shit, and then you lose the vigor of maybe whatever had you waking up in the morning with, you know what I'm saying, with haste, with, you know, such alarm, with such a need to have to hurry up and go. Something that, you know, and I don't mean in a way to where you have fucking kids running around making a goddamn mess, pissing you the fuck off, and you gotta go be back there with a goddamn mop and broom. Or broom and mop, whatever came first, the chicken or the egg. And it's just one of those things to where if you feel like you're just working for the weekend. And I don't mean that in some terrible, maybe a cliche. Actually, no, it was an 80s song first. I want to say, I don't know if Seinfeld came out first and he had those, you know, semi-corny jokes, which, you know, got him in, or if it was the literal men at work from Australia who had that one song, working for the something like that, and it makes you wonder, like, well, now I'm getting lost in what else Australia's produced. I'm not too sure if it's, I think Schwarzenegger. I think is Iggy Azalea, Wadita, and then I also think Steve Irwin, right? That's the guy who wrestled the crocodiles or the alligators, you know, what have you. Which then we made synonymous with white people just doing crazy shit, which ain't always the case. And you have your different shades of white, but I wonder like how America is viewed, especially with what's currently going on, and it seems like the bad guy from the Karate Kid is gonna become the fucking president. So like I wonder, is that how we're seeing it? Is he the definition? Do we see like the typical, you know, New York yuppie, or like the hardworking Boston guy, you know, who says khakis, like he's trying to say khakis? Or is it the, you know, and it can't be the surfer, because you figure that might have floated on from Hawaii over to Cali, and I know they're really big out there in Australia too. Wherever the fuck there's waves, I don't know about that sport, so don't quote me. But I'm just wondering, like, what do they see? Do they see a smorgasbord of shit? Because, you know, Mexicans take up a lot of the motherfucking population out here. So do they see a man from Home Depot? Like, is that one of the great image backgrounds? Like, what is it that other people are seeing? And as far as what they're doing, and analytics can probably explain a lot of that, but then I think we get very racial by that time, because then that's when stereotypes kind of collide. And I recently saw a study that regardless of all that, like, there's still very, very similar watching patterns as far as like what people watch on Netflix. And I've realized, especially being with this long, drawn out work week where I feel like most of my time goes towards that. And however, the concept of 8 hours of work with 8 hours of recreational with 8 hours of sleep, like however the fuck that shit became a thing to where we had to spend a third of something in order to, and then have to do something else or have to supplement in between the two, it could be jarring and it can give a fucking headache, and I'm actually feeling it right now. But when it comes to, like I said, our watch patterns or just in what we kind of maybe give ourselves over to, like I said, having such a, I don't know, brain frying week, instead of, let's say wanting to make some music or even fucking my beautiful vices or most horrible vices, but playing vids. Even when that becomes too jarring, I'm like, I don't want to turn this shit on, or I gotta worry about making a noise, or knowing damn well what happens when you get lost into something, food, conspiracy, whatever, you really just go all out. And it made me think, or actually it made me think more about just what gets lost into the whole process of when you're watching Netflix. Now, I have my little shits put in a list, so when I do find something, bam, it goes to the list. And if and when I feel to watch it, hoping that it doesn't get removed at the beginning or ending of every month, then I get to enjoy it eventually. And even though I have like this big ass list that I would probably never find the time to be able to actually go through and binge watch unless, a special occasion arises, and whatever the hell modes that we get when, getting lost in something entirely like that, is having to actually like look for other stuff. Kind of like how when you go to the fridge, knowing damn well maybe you just were there 5 minutes ago or you just got done eating, but yeah, you look. I don't know if it's a fat person thing or what. Where you go, you look, you don't see nothing. Okay, you keep it moving, and yet somehow again, as if something's gonna magically fucking get there, you look again and again and forever how fucking long the process is until you actually make a decision. I feel like in that very same respect, we look through Netflix. I look through Netflix. And I'm looking for shit that I'm like, no, I really don't like this. Knowing damn well that the only way there's going to be a new show is whether at the beginning or the end of the month. And the only way there's going to be new groceries inside the fridge is at the beginning or the ending of every month, depending on when you get the page, the 1st, the 15th, or however the hell the check comes in. Shit can't move until there's movement or until there's more to, fish and filter around. So point being, we get very lost in this little stale, non-moving pond, and I'm not so mad at it, only because like I said, I don't even have time to swim around that pond, so why bother for such a bigger one? But I laughed that I just looked a little bit deeper into it, and it turns out that there technically is only 31 films on Netflix. A lot of it gets, filtered or muddled in with TV shows, which, mind you, are the majority of shit that I have on my list, because they're just, I think, movies. To bastardize something into a simple 2 hours is, I think it just leaves you too much, depending on what the story is, of course, it leaves you begging for much more. Kind of, imagine, a fuck session will last about that long, and I had my fill, unless I'm really trying to, make up for some demons. But what really caught me off guard about it only having 31 films is that it actually had gone down lower. It actually had decreased 12% from 2014. So just, mind you, every month at the beginning and end, they take some away that no longer are contracted or eligible, and they add new stuff in. I'm not too sure if it's to weigh in one for the other or one that gets less reviews. I don't run analytics down there, but they make these conditions or these changes on behalf of that. Now, one of the dopest things though about Netflix, I think why you may maybe not notice, is that most of the shit that's on there, at least the good stuff or really good stuff, is actually original material. So Netflix is really paving the way by making their own original content. Do they use shit from AMC and ABC and other things that rhyme with these? Yes, they do. But some of the dopest stuff, though, comes out directly from them. Now, whether that's a mix of the Marvel stuff, which is a pretty big deal in the fact that Disney owns them, like they own ESPN, and there would never be sports content to get in there. I think there's a few documentaries, but I'm not too sure how that works. But there's definitely Marvel stuff, and they own Star Wars. So I can imagine, and mind you, Disney I'm sure, I don't know if they have a stake in Netflix or not, but they're really allowing for their materials to be like kind of almost have an exclusive platform. I mean, I want to say I've seen little, actually no, I think that's Nickelodeon. Your Hulu's and your other things, I'm not too sure what exclusive content they have from Disney. I just know that it comes from Netflix a lot, or at least because that's the majority. I've noticed that they at least have a lot of their content, and with the years coming, they're gonna definitely release a lot of like their animated movies, which is their top sellers. So if we already have things like your Avengers and shit like that, then I can imagine the rest of Marvel stuff, which we already have original shit like your Daredevils, your Luke Cages, your what's that Juanita's name? I can't really think of it right now. Something Page, can't even fucking. With all this stuff that they have, they really are kind of carving their own way so that they're probably not going to need other movies. I'm sure they'll have to in order to kind of to keep, exclusivity deals about where you can see something first, whether it's your red boxes, whether it's your DVDs, or however the hell that works. And it's interesting how they kind of time that stuff, but it just kind of shows how big of a juggernaut they are. And I'm not mad at it at all. They have their own little ecosystem, and I feel like, and especially to go back with the Marvel thing, they're really picking and choosing how or where they're creating their shit. They're not just gonna let something be bastardized. I mean, no offense to Supergirl or the Arrow and other DC, franchises, but shit can seem pretty whack, and I can't be mad at that because even the earliest, and maybe still, mind you, I'm a Superman fan, but it's always been corny, and it's always just been kind of a tool to look at, and that's what makes, I think, gives Batman such a bigger strength audience-wise, is because you get to be a little bit more dark and a little bit more gritty, and Superman is known as the Boy Scout of sorts, so which isn't a bad thing. Like I say, that's great and that's honorable, but there's a bit of edge that kind of gets lost in it when you go that route. But either which way, back to Marvel, they're actually even when it comes to video games, one of the things I used to get really upset about is every other year or every time a movie comes out, there's some franchise game to go alongside with it, and it always kind of came out a bit shitty. Like there was something missing in the details, whether that was, I don't know, just the functions or glitches or just whatever the hell. It wasn't properly done. This shit was rushed. This shit was the kind of thing to where, okay, let's get the last game we got, make that shit shinier, prettier, add in a few extra things so that they don't notice that we're using the same structure of shit from before. So they're really taking their time. And to give more specific example, your two big juggernauts, and mind you, I'm a Nintendo fanboy, is going to either be your Sony PlayStation or your Microsoft Xbox. Now, in that sense, those are really the two competing systems, and when you can have an exclusive, it's going to kind of drive a wedge and make you choose. I mean, unless you have money to just get both systems, you're going to pretty much pick and choose what system you're going to go for, which one you're going to invest into and build this library of shit for. Because for those that don't have the luxury of having money to wipe your ass with, or the nonsense to just put on a credit card and worry about it later, you're going to probably be picky or precise or more particular about what you invest into. At least we should. Anything we lose ourselves or gives ourselves over to, we should hopefully give it a lot of consideration, just knowing the ins, outs, and ways about it. But anyways, Marvel, and I keep getting off the point, is teaming up with a company called, or they're using the developers called Insomniac Games. If you're into them at all, you might know them from your Ratchet and Clanks. They definitely did a really dope-ass game. That was called Sunset Overdrive, which is the only reason I would want to go back to Xbox. I mean, besides kind of playing the Gears of War shit, which I didn't hear was all too great this last time around, I would want to go just because of that game and the fact that this company, who normally has had a very close relationship with Sony since, I'm pretty sure even before the Ratchet and Clank series, they've been known to be the homies that chill with, Sony. And when they had this game, and they, mind you, they're a third-party company, so they can technically do what they want. They're not in-house, so they don't have to, just strictly, do for that particular team, a la Manny Fresh back in the day, where he had to just do shit for the cash money. And then eventually, once he got out of his deal, he's able to then branch out, and other people can get some hits. For the most part, when you're in-house, they're going to keep you in-house. So I'm not too sure if that was a way of them saying, look, we can do a whole lot more we're gonna, you know, and then they were given a chance to. It was dope as hell. It definitely got my attention. And like I said, this is me, you know, picking a side, because when you love Nintendo, that's just what's in your heart. And then when you go Sony or Xbox, that's just a matter of, you know, left or right. You know, Jackass or Hippo, or however that goes, Elephant. So they're now exclusively making this, they exclusively have the rights. I'm saying, I say all this to say that they exclusively have the rights to make the next Spider-Man game, which you feel, whatever. But Spider-Man's really dope. And even though they have a new movie coming up soon, this is something that's totally disconnected from the movie franchise. At least we're assuming, because it has its own costumes, and because they show teasers of it, and it looks gorgeous. And they're very used to doing games where they're kind of zip lining and flying and, you know, zipping away, kind of like the infamous games on Sony, and then of course that Sunset Overdrive game. They have a thing about grinding and just flying all over the place that makes it perfect for Spider-Man. And I'm not too sure if that's what the intent was. Like, okay, who makes this kind of game without ever making that kind of game? Oh, these people. But anyways, so they get to, the reason why it's such a big deal and that they get to exclusively make something is the fact that it's not a company that's going to distribute or dispense to other systems. I mean, mind you, Sony thing actually owns the right to, I don't know if they lost the right to the Spider-Man franchise, because I know it's going back to Marvel, but mind you, Marvel kind of keeping it in-house for a little bit, knowing damn well these people can make a great fucking game for another fucking system, an ecosystem. Then, you know, it might have been like the fire into the asshole to kind of get it sizzling. And who knows, it might maybe get ported over. Like, for example, there's Laura Croft. You might remember her from the Angelina movie, which originally was actually a game. And she kind of came back in a style and really sold really well. And for time being, it was exclusive to Xbox for a while. And it just came over to the PlayStation 4, which doesn't make too big of a difference, because it wasn't like it was a guaranteed exclusive, because they weren't owned by either one company. So mind you, it was kind of like a second party, but they made games for both systems. So it was just a thing about timing. And like I said, timing and exclusivity will kind of keep people at bay. You tell me that I'm going to get this if I stay here, well then, if it means that much more to me, I'm going to. And I think in that same aspect, when you have channels like your Netflix that are going to give you this content, you know you're going to get the same great stuff, at least you would hope so, or you assume so, or you give trust into by sticking around. And they just recently made a price jump, and I'm not too sure if that's going to go any higher or how that's going to stack up against other companies, because I think that's kind of been the rate with other people, and that's what made Netflix so dope. It's kind of like when a fat girl becomes skinny and she realizes that she's hot, and then all of a sudden she says in her shit don't stink. I hope that ain't that case, but she definitely knows her worth now. So that's interesting.